we're like, okay, we have to pay 75 grand. Like, we're on the verge of bankruptcy here.
We don't say
people,
those words.
It's going to be in the title. You better
We're on the verge of bankruptcy here.
That's what it is.
Yeah, dude.
Welcome to the Smart Nonsense Podcast, where we talk about entrepreneurship, self-development, and challenging norms. Today, we're in
First and last.
First
and last.
I'm blocking.
You're pacifying.
I'm pacifying, dude.
You're pacifying.
I liked it, and then I got nervous.
I think right off the bat, we should probably roll. We should probably roll Will Smith just slapping the shit out of Chris Rock.
Oh, dude, because this is gonna be released in like 3 weeks.
And it's audio. How about that? So I'll just slap you.
Hey, I got a better hook. Here's my hook, Belky.
You prepped a hook?
What's that number?
Oh, no, Pop. Did you
What's the
refresh?
number?
Did you refresh? 32,163.
For those of us on YouTube, right now, watch on YouTube, you're seeing our bank account. It's $32,163.
I'm blocking.
In 7 days, that has to be $100,000.
The good news is, I think there might be another 20 or so hitting. Not $20, $20K hitting in the next.
From whom?
We sold a couple super editors, Pop. And payments coming in. And cash flow coming in. We're really good at looking at cash flow out. Don't forget about cash flow in. But yes, we have a problem.
I'm going to keep this number up for the whole podcast because it was dark. It was really dark. The last time we were in person was maybe a week ago.
Look at that stair stepper down. If you know anything about like unit economics, something's not working in that graph.
It's supposed to go up and to the right.
It
goes down and to the right, dude.
That's part of our problem with it. We'll get there.
We don't know how to read graphs. And if it had Smart Nonsense, too. Smart Nonsense, I looked at the bank account because I was trying to apply to places, and it was at like 150 in December. 120, something like that.
No.
So that's the great decline.
The great decline.
Here's the problem we're working with. I say in a week because on March 14th, April. Hey, April 14th. April 14th, we have to pay $75,000 to our now 50-person team, which I didn't realize we were that big.
That's not even counting ourselves, Pop.
That's 75.
We need $100,000.
Plus another 15 for ourselves in theory, and then plus all these editors on this clipped platform that we're trying to build with Ali Abdal. A lot of problems. What happened the last time we were together? I realized these all at once when you said one thing to me. It only took one sentence. We're in the car. I was happy. I was feeling really good because it's like I haven't seen Belky in maybe 3 months. It was just his birthday. Life rips.
Mm-hmm.
And
roll the vlog.
Roll my socks.
Rip.
It rips. So I'm like, that's awesome. Everything's good. I'm applying to places in New York. I'm like, okay, our cash flow is shaky, but it's good. It's right. We're going to pay ourselves this month, I think. And then right when we're about to hit the studio, I'm like, yo, Belky, like, cash flow is good or something. It's like $75K. And like, I think the numbers are going to work out even with these free trials that we're doing at Ali Abdal's part-time YouTube Academy. And I'm like, yeah, it's great. Like 40 people is the right number, some shit like that. And you're like, you know what's crazy, Pop?
You know what's crazy?
We're actually 50. And
you forgot about 10 of us. You gotta go in Notion.
My body, dude.
You gotta go in Notion.
Here's
the
problem.
I think we're like 46 actually. Without you and I, we're like 46. Well, that doesn't work. I think we're 49. I think we should know. I just think we should know.
Probably should know if we're running this business, and it's our only real business.
And it's bootstrapped, Pop. That means the cash really matters. Okay, sorry.
So in that moment, because I had an idea. I haven't checked the bank account in a while. In my head, I'm like, okay, we got like 50,000 in the bank account. What is 50 people? Like instantly, I knew. I'm like, oh, the margins make sense when we're 40 people. But as soon as you add 10 people, that's literally our salary gone because that's $16,000. It's literally 10 people is our salary. $16,000. So I'm like, well, we're officially no longer paid. Like, there goes all our margin. Like, the profit margin, that's the thing. When it's like, if you're only making $16,000 profit, you don't think this like little editor here and there makes a difference, but it makes a big difference to if you can eat burritos at 1 p.m. delivered to you. So,
or move to New York, or anywhere for that matter.
We
got to talk about where you're going.
I don't know where I'm going.
Not
dude.
in the U.S.
Everything's existential.
Not in the U.S.
And here's the problem. Let me keep talking for this whole podcast. The problem is this, Belky. I forgot the problem as soon as I brought it up.
Come on, Bob.
In-N-Out.
Come on, Bob.
There's a problem.
Not In-N-Out Burger.
All fronts.
Not In-N-Out Burger. The problem when you got so existential at the studio?
Notes.
Like when you got sad?
I got sad. Well, one, I got sad because I'm like, well, I can't afford New York at this current rate. Or we got to do some selling. Because in my head, I'm like, oh, we're just going to focus on the pod, rip the pod, grow the fuck out of that thing. And I'm like, oh, actually, this thing that we thought would just rip on its own is making us negative money.
And needs a lot of attention.
It needs a lot of attention. So I'm having a mini panic.
And I'm just giggling at you. Because
Right,
I think your existential panic is hilarious. And I don't really understand the magnitude of the problem. I forget why. Why didn't I understand?
You still didn't understand it then? I think once we opened this number, I always thought this was at 50,000. Then I opened it.
I didn't understand till we actually did the math. That's why.
When did we do the math?
I was just like, it'll figure itself out. We weren't in
person. Right, that's the thing. We're like, Ollie, you want free trials for 50 editors?
Fuck it, dude. Fuck it. And that wasn't even planned. That's exactly what it was. He was like, can you guys do free trials for 50 editors? We're like, it's Friday. Fuck it, dude.
I remember.
Of course we can.
I was stressing because I'm like, well, a month trial is $1,000 times 50. That's $50,000. And we only have about 50 in the bank account. I don't know. Like,
squeaky clean.
And
by squeaky clean, I mean we squeak by.
I think we did the math when it's like, we got this Fugazi number in Stripe, which is like how we charge subscriptions. That says $75,000 or $77,000, something like that. It's like, okay, this is how much money is coming in each month. What they don't tell you is that's just averaged. Mm-hmm. So we have a couple deals at the start of the year that was like, oh, there's a $50,000 deal, but it covers 6 months for a couple editors. And it's like, oh, that money is not going to hit us until July.
Correct. So if you're actually working in terms of years, the Stripe MRR makes complete sense.
We don't think in years.
We're working on like 2-week like turnarounds. So that MRR is total fugazi. That's what happened.
Right.
That's what happened. We decided like 2 weeks ago, we're break even. You're like, right. 77's coming in, and that's what the team costs. So we'll just do all of our marketing and we'll build the platform, and that's where we're going to make all of our money. We're going to be the Mr. Beast. Media company pays for the scalable platform.
Well, one, I thought
if you're venture backed.
I thought we were 40, so I'm like, okay, that's like a little over 50 grand in cost. So first thing is like, okay, we're break even and we pay ourselves. Beautiful. Like this business we built, if that can just run on its own, awesome. But then I realized I'm like, oh, we're 50. That means we're like dead break even. Like we don't even pay ourselves. We're effectively losing money. And then I realized, hey, that 75 that we thought is coming in is really only 50.
That's right. In terms of real liquid cash. It's a theoretical 75.
Because we had a couple people, we have a couple of the 3 months that already hit. And like, we saw that money in the bank account and we're like, oh, that's cash flow. I've been talking to you this whole time. I guess I should look at the camera too. But it's like, that money already hit.
It's in the graph. Look at where this graph starts. That's like where all of this lump sum MRR hits in February. And we've just been like bleeding out of that.
And we both put in 30 grand each.
We don't talk about that.
And when the bank account's at 30, we're like, where'd the rest of it go?
I'm blocking.
And that's losing money.
I'm blocking everything. We don't talk about that.
So I have this existential crisis. I'm like, okay, one, I can't afford New York. So now I have to break it to Ice. And I'm like, yo, Ice.
Best friend.
I know I told you I'd live together with you. And you like turned down other people to live with me and fucked up your whole situation. And he's been in this whole chaos because of our financials. I'm like, sorry, dude. And he's like, pissed, rightfully so.
And he doesn't get mad.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like not talking to me right now. And I'm like, hey, you're mad? I also lost 30 grand on top of this. So like we're both pretty upset. I was looking forward to it.
It just hits the stereotype because he knows we're the unstable friends. And this was super unstable.
He's like, hey, wish you the best with your business.
We got to make sure this isn't at 27, but at least 32.
Oh, yeah, that's when, 29 is when I saw it. When I saw 29, I'm like, that number is too low.
Yeah, that was on Friday.
That number is too low.
That was on Friday. Okay, Pop, then I giggled at you for like 2 hours. I drove you home. Well, existential weekend.
This is like existential everything because I'm like, okay, this company is cool. Like, I'm okay with it just happening if we're like paying ourselves this salary and it's not costing us mental headspace to not build this marketplace that we want to, which is like Uber for video. We wanted to build that where you want an editor, here it is. And it's like less than $2,000 a month. We wanted to build that. And I wanted to build the personal brand. Now it's like, oh, this thing that we thought could just be hands off is now about to kill us all. Mm-hmm. And it's costing me my life in New York and my friends and like my relationship. She's like, I was supposed to, okay, this is kind of the dumb nonsense, but I was supposed to break up with my girlfriend to move to New York. And now it's like, oh, I can't move to New York. It's like, what's happening? And she's yelling at me because she's like, I can't live with an uncertain person like this. And I'm like, I can't live with myself.
Can I just ask if people here want to see dumb nonsense? It's another podcast we're going to spin off. Just comment down below if you want to hear about dumb nonsense. It's stuff like setting a deadline to break up with your girlfriend. There's crazy stories. And I think we just glossed over that. That's not for this podcast.
It's Call Her Daddy. It's really bad. But basically, I'm like, okay, now this thing is suddenly, it's like, I related it to, it's like this fucking machine gun. And it's like this dope, powerful machine, but like, in the wrong hands, you're literally going to friendly fire it and kill yourselves, and that's what we're doing. We're like, oh my God, I didn't realize how many people we have. Now we have to sell them because they're costing us money. Now, how do we go from when we look at this as 29,000 and we're like, okay, it's got to get to 100,000? How do we make that jump?
To survive like a month.
Literally to survive. It's like 70 grand, and we're paying people on April 14th. In Stripe, it takes like a couple days to actually hit, and their business days. So basically, we have a week. We have like a week for money to be processed to like hit our bank account in time to send to the team so that there's not chaos, anarchy. The first way we thought we solved this problem, which is why I was excited originally, was like we're paying everyone $2,100 a month, or most of the people on the team. Like, okay, this isn't sustainable because that's like 100 grand a month, and we're literally not making that. So, and we're effectively guaranteeing pay. I say effectively a lot, but we're guaranteeing pay for pretty much everyone on the team. I'm like, okay, if we're going to guarantee pay, let's like go back to our original rates of a guaranteed company
Right, because we had inflated salaries like 50% to account for uncertain pay. Like you're going on this marketplace and you only get paid when you're working with a client.
Right.
We were paying for that uncertainty, but then we didn't want to lose these people, so we just kind of kept that turned on. And so we're like, oh, we're overpaying for the fact that we want to keep everyone on certain terms, essentially on salary with Clipped.
Right. So if you're like, okay, if you're paying everyone $500 more a month times 50, that's 25 grand just extra, and we did that for like 2 months. When we weren't doing any marketing or bringing in any new people in. So it's like 50 grand that, okay, that's basically what we contributed to the company just right out the door just because we made a mistake. But no problem. Now, what do we do? And we have this dilemma of we don't know whether or not we believe in this thing we call super editors. Because originally, if we think back, we're like, how did we get our break? We were creating something that no one had seen on Twitter. It's this original sort of animated clip look that it's like, oh my God, what is that? I haven't seen something like that before. I want that. The problem is people want that, but they don't need that.
They don't want what comes with it either.
It doesn't make sense. Like, okay, I want to talk about...
It doesn't move the needle. Like, people are coming to us to make viral content, to grow their brands, to grow their business. That content doesn't do it. It's so crazy. It just, like... viewers don't want to watch it. It doesn't move the needle.
It doesn't on these platforms where you would see All In Talk, for example. They just have no editing on their clips, and it goes viral. Why? Because it's a great story, and we're just not putting out enough stories. And like we don't know what stories are gonna hit. It's often random shit with all these channels. It's like, oh, this thing on how to type with a keyboard or how to like use a keyboard instead of a mouse. That gets like 400,000 views or whatever. It's like no idea that would pop off versus every other clip that gets 2,000. So like, oh shit, everything's wrong. 10 for 10, this product we built, which is like $1,000 a clip, people aren't getting results off that. Because yeah, it's cool the first time you see it, but then it's like, why am I making an ad that's $1,000 for just a podcast clip that makes no sense?
For 8 views.
And we don't even use the product ourselves after a year. Like, okay, there's something going on here. So we transitioned the whole company away from 10 for 10 as a product to, oh, get the editor, do whatever you want. And guess what? What you want is actually just a shitload of clips.
Yeah.
You want quantity versus quality, unless you're like a Naval type, but that's super rare, so we didn't want to emphasize that. Now, where the fuck was I going with all this?
We were lost. I think you're trying to get to Balenciaga.
We're lost of, okay, easy.
What we are?
Easy. So we're lost of like, why do we have 50 people, or we have 40, what we call super editors or animators. We have 40 of them for something we no longer believe they're necessary for.
Correct.
Like, they make sense if you're trying to stand out and create that ad that's just like, holy shit, what is that? I need that. But you don't actually need that. You just want it because it looks pretty, but then it doesn't perform. So now we're like, why do we have 40 people, 50 people doing things that don't perform? And there's this inertia to create exactly that. And there's kind of this intercompetition of everyone wants to outdo themselves with a crazier edit, but that doesn't make sense for the customer. So now we're like, we're getting fucked by a product we don't believe in, and we don't want to sell it because we don't believe in it.
It's like just hard to sell because we don't. It's easy to sell things you believe in because you just like naturally talk about them.
Right.
We could not sell this thing because we didn't really know what it did.
Right.
There was no what's in it for the customer.
Right. So we were like, okay, Naval, it makes sense. Ali Abdaal, he cares about utmost quality. He kind of makes sense. At least, like, it's his brand, so that makes sense. But everyone else is just like, what the fuck's going on? So now we're like, okay, we have to pay 75 grand. Like, we're on the verge of bankruptcy here.
We don't say
people,
those words.
It's going to be in the title. You better
We're on the verge of bankruptcy here.
That's what it is.
Yeah, dude. My mom can smell it.
Yeah.
She can smell it.
She smelled blood in the water before we smelled it.
Yes, she did. We need her as an advisor. She asked me about, first of all, she asked me about the business like every day. And to your credit, like to your advice, I'm always like, it's great. It's amazing. Things are great. But she started asking about debts and bankruptcies like a month or two ago. Smelled it.
Yeah, my mom, she's what, because we're just starting to like slowly catch up on pods. And she probably listened to January where it's just chaos and we're not like making money and we're spending a lot. And she's like, hey, is everything okay with the business? And I'm on the treadmill downstairs and I'm like, yeah, everything's sick. Meanwhile, we had to make 70 grand in 7 days.
Dude. People text me. They're like asking about these old podcasts. I'm like, first of all, I don't even know where y'all are at in the plot. We recorded that in October. You're going to have to take that up with Dylan. But I'm like, yeah, this week's fucked. So keep listening.
Head down, baby. So, okay, this is where it comes to a head of like, what do we do?
Oh, these are also. Oh, we're at 20 minutes. These are supposed to be like,
dude,
not one noggin bomb.
No, fuck it, dude. I don't care. I already have the title and the thumbnail. You're just along for the ride. I'm also a great book is like Things That Stick or something like that.
Made to Stick.
Made to Stick. Yeah, you read it already?
I started it many months ago, but I never picked it back up.
Dude, my brain is fucking shot. I don't even know why I brought that up. Great book, though.
And you didn't. You said, like, good to stick or something. So you don't even know what it is.
Dude, if I'm not rattled. Okay. Chris Rock composure. That's me, dude. Okay. Here's what I see. I see the options like this. And I had this existential crisis with you walking back from... dude, I just blocked for like 30 seconds straight with my eyes closed. Dude. I couldn't even open my eyes.
Dude, really quick. I'm in this thing. I don't know if it's from intermittent fasting or if it was from caffeine withdrawal or something. But like, it's happening right now as I think about it. My vision narrows. It's like when I was having panic attacks at lunch. My vision narrows and I like can't hear the voices around me. And then I have a panic attack because I'm losing control. I think I'm going to be all right. But I'm just telling you, this has been happening lately.
Angel Palm, whoever's editing this,
And my palms are sweating.
We're all good.
We're good.
We're
good. Subscribe. Everything's okay right here.
Okay, first option. Fire the entire company. Fuck them all. If you don't have a client, you're not making us money. We're instantly profitable. I can now live in New York. All problem solved.
That's a totally that's an option a lot of companies do. You know, they have regular periods of just like laying people off and then scaling up and then laying people off in Q1, and that's totally normal, I guess. But
Q1.
Q1. Dude.
Q1. You fucking Q1. Dude, that's fucking that guy's a Q1, dude.
I got this breathing technique from Andrew Huberman, where you go in through the nose, then a sharp inhale. It's like some Wim Hof breathing, and that should calm me down. So
you can't drink any more of your water. You zap that. Option 1, fire the whole team. That's what most Q1ers do. That we don't want to do. That's going to cause panic. But it's an option.
And you don't want to do that to a sports team, right? If you're going to pay them top dollar, you don't want to just fire half your sports team mid-season.
Right. You just
you pay
we
them
only
top
need
dollar.
9 guys on the field for baseball, so cut everyone else. You don't want to do that. Okay, option 2. I think this was the option you were leaning towards, and this is, or both of us really, because we have PTYA, which is supposed to launch, and we're like, oh, that's the savior. That's why all this cash flow, all these problems were going to make sense, was PTYA launches, and now we have maybe 5% of those 500 people want editors, and it's like, okay, well, that's 25 people. Yeah, 25 people.
Don't ask me to do math, Pop.
Maybe it's 10%, and it all works out. The problem is they're not launching that to everybody for another 2 weeks. We don't have time for that. We got to pay in a week and a half.
And everyone's on free trials on our dollar.
Right.
Currently.
So we're like, oh, that's going to be our savior. But guess what? No, it's actually just costing us money. And like, we're not going to see those free trials expire before we have to pay our team.
The problem with it is people love free shit. We don't have any signal from it. People love free shit. So like, they're stoked on Clipped. They're stoked on how it's structured. They're stoked on Clipped support. But that's because it's free right now. Does that get tainted when it turns on? Maybe. It's $2,000 a month. We don't know.
That's where all my uncertainty is like, with this move, we're like putting all our chips on the everyone just needs a good enough editor tile, or whatever you want to call it, like you're gambling. And that's what we're betting on. But we don't even know if people want that. And we won't have evidence of it until the trials expire, until it's literally too late and the company's fucking toast. So like, wow, we really put a bet on something we can't even get the results of until
that's what happens when you fuck it Friday. We just said fuck it. But the timing's terrible. It's so close to being good, but it's not good. And here's the problem. The problem is, this is what I liked in Made to Stick. It was talking about... there it is.
Well, it's one of my favorite books now. But I can't remember a single thing that's important for it. But this thing that I do remember, it's like concrete stuff. Like they're trying to teach accounting in college. It's like, that makes no sense when you're like, well, fixed cost and variable cost. And it's like, you got to look at the balance sheet. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? But when they brought them in, like everyone in the class had this mock business that for the entire semester they just built. And it's like, oh, now you understand the difference between cash flow and profitability. Like, well, we're not even like profitable really, but we're like in theory profitable, but our cash flow is so fucked, and that's going to bankrupt the company. So you can be the most profitable company, but if your cash flow is fucked, you're fucked. So this is sort of the real world example of, okay, we look, and the problem with PTYA is like selling to these 500
part-time YouTuber Academy partnership with Ali Abdaal.
Right.
PTYA.
Is all of those costs are these variable costs. So like, say one person wants to buy there, we have to pay an editor $1,000, and we're gonna make $500 off of them. But it's like, we only get the $500 because we have to pay them. Versus we have salaried team, which is fixed costs.
Right.
We have these fixed costs that are $75,000, and if they're not working, they're just costing us money. So we try to solve this problem with this variable cost, but it's like, we only make $500 off a sale there. Versus if we sell this fixed cost, which is already going to happen, like we're already paying those people, every every dollar we make there is pure profit. Like that's just saving us.
Correct.
So now if we sell one super editor who are already paying for fixed cost for $4,000, that $4,000 is like profit versus the 500. So it's like 8 times more valuable. So like, okay, originally option 1 was fire. Option 2 was sell to PTYA. Like that's not gonna work because that just like we'd have to sell fucking 100 of these people, and that's gonna be chaos. There's like no way.
And expect that when the free trials end, they all turn on a paying subscription.
Right. So we're like, okay, we got to focus on just like chipping away at this fixed cost that we have because that's a company. We tried to solve it with this like we only pay you when you have a client. Oh, maybe we're too good, but we're too nice of people. We didn't want to do that. We wouldn't be in this issue if that was the case because we just wouldn't pay half the team and the other half would be all profitable.
That is correct.
But whatever, we're here. So now option 1, option 2.
I love that though.
work.
It's just like we're here. Got to figure it out.
Hey, shit happens.
All of these things are true, but we're here. So
our only real option, other than firing, is selling these super editors. And so we have 20 available. Like half the team, half the super editors are hired. Like we have 10 that are kind of like admin, so, sort of like editor, personal editor stuff. They're already accounted for. So 20 free people.
Is it that much? Yeah, it is that much.
20 people doing really nothing that's actually bringing in money.
Right.
That's why we're on the road to bankruptcy.
Correct.
Because you can't have half of your
right. So
company
in theory, they're working for Ali Abdal, who's pushing all these people to Clipped, but all the people he's pushing to us are on free trials.
Right.
So it's
like we're spending money on people promoting something that loses us money. It's like a double lose money.
Correct.
So, and Ali loves this because obviously, like, who doesn't love free? So he's like, oh, let me scale up this free. And
they've been great, by the way.
They're awesome.
And we've done effectively no work, and we have probably 16 or 18 awesome creators on the marketplace.
Right. So,
but cash flow don't lie.
He wants to scale that, and we're like, okay, you can't scale something that's gonna die. Like, we're debating cutting your entire team. Like, we might have to do that unless we're able to sell them. So we got to figure out something that makes sense, where either he starts paying for them or we sell them to other people. Like, something has to happen, or it's total anarchy. What do we do? When we look at this, like, my first thought was, okay, the easiest way to sell out this team is not, like, find new people to sell, like, not go blitzing other people and, like, for example, hope that, I don't know, someone moved on to blitz. Like, your Mom's House podcast that I sent you, I'm like, let's blitz them and hope that they buy one. Like, that's not really going to work. Let's go to the people that trust us most, that love us, and try and upsell them. On, ideally, kind of what got us into this mess was long-term contracts. But that's the easiest form to just, like, get that cash, and, like, that's going to save us for this month. And now we have an extra 4 weeks of runway to figure it out for next month.
Correct.
Not the best
and
way to
offer
run a
no
business.
more. We'll get there, but offer no more free trials.
Yeah, we got to totally change that shit around. But so that's basically us. We're like, okay, we want to go to who's getting the most value and just, like, upsell them. So you try to do it with a couple, like Buzzsprout and some other people, be like, hey, you want to switch to 3 months or whatever it is at this lower rate, but it gets us like 10 grand in the door versus whatever, 3 grand at a time, or whatever it'd be, 4 grand. So that's one option, but that's not moving the needle. Like, we need to literally make $70,000 in profit. Like, okay, picture it, $70,000 in profit at 500 on the marketplace. We needed 140 people on the marketplace. I'm like, that's just not going to work.
Not an
like,
option.
There's no fucking way that, and they'd have to sell earlier than they want to too. It's just not an option. So how do we make 70 grand? Wait, how does that even fucking, okay, one super editor is 4 grand. So call it, like, we almost have to sell all of them. I think it's like actual numbers, like 60 we could probably get away with. We give ourselves some buffer. We have to sell like 15 of the 20.
We got conservative.
So how do we do that? We thought about just, like, selling them, but, and this is kind of part of the problem, like, I wanted to record a pod, but I also didn't want to because it's, like, so dark. Like, this is us thinking we have a solution.
This is the
that
problem
might
with,
not work
right?
also.
This is also the problem with building in public is, like, well, the team's going to hear this. Our editors are going to hear this. Clients could hear this. That's what makes it so compelling. But it's also like, oh, do we want to record this? Like 3 days ago was super dark. I'm a lot more confident now. But like 3 days ago was super dark. So it's like, do you want to record that?
The only other time where we had like a real bankruptcy issue was when HubSpot was like, hey, we're cutting your budget in half. And that was the only other time we're like, oh, fired half the team. That's the only way we were.
But he was like, this 30K thing, it's a black box. I don't know what the fuck you two clowns are doing. We need to be at like the 10 to 15K budget range for everything, not just the podcast.
Oh, that's a good point.
But there it's just like, no, just sell more.
Yeah.
We always come back to sell more. And it's like, we don't want to fuck the team. We actually built something great. We want to
Can we set a reminder to sell more before it's too late so this doesn't happen?
I hope to God we sell more. So we basically get through all of it. What we're going to look to do is just figure out how do we sell Ollie, who's our most trusted person right now and is just using like 5 to 10 editors for free. It's like, how do we sell him a long-term contract? Because we want to work with him in the long term, just get that cash up front. And we're willing to do it literally at cost. Like, just make sure we don't lose money and pay us up front. And then, boom, like, we can keep working with you. We'll survive. We'll figure it out next month because now we won't have money for next month. But we'll just figure out how to sell.
Dude, and we're like happy here. But I think on Friday, we must have been on the phone or something. But I was like,
no,
dude, this is our how I built this moment.
Yeah.
Where like, they're going to ask like, what was the darkest point? And right now I feel like we're on an uptick. But I was like, this is the point where we actually risk everything. We want to save the team. We're going to leverage credit cards and like throw a Hail Mary to Ali Abdaal.
Yeah.
And whether he catches that pass or not, it's like, it's grim.
Well, okay.
Was grim.
So one thing I realized too is like, okay, we changed our, I was trying to think of a tagline for the podcast because I was listening to Made to Stick. And it's like, oh, have a tagline that's just like, that's what people fucking know you for. And it's just like the go-to. So I'm trying to think of things. And I was like, I don't know. Like we talk about startups and stuff. And Gen Z. And it was like stupid. And I'm like, building a shitty business in public.
It's the shittiest.
The problem is this.
It's the shittiest business.
We're trying to build 2 shitty businesses in public.
That's exactly right.
Both losing us absurd amount of money.
That's exactly right.
So I'm like, fuck, I don't know like the train of thought here. I think the train of thought was I talked to Yuri, who's our go-to, like, hey, we need some advice because you're a marketer, you know how to sell, like, you know how to do this. Like, I was so lost. I've texted Belky I've texted you like, I'm lost probably 20 times in the last week.
Dude, the last 3 days was just me being like, I'm lost, and then you texting back like, I'm lost, and then us getting on the phone for an hour and a half being like, we're lost.
Literally, I'm walking on around the playground for an hour and a half, just like, well, what if we priced it like this? But like, why do we have super editors? What's the point? Or like, fucking
the phone call is like,
save us.
it's like we're on the phone, and it's like, well, what if we did this? And they're like, yeah, we could do that. And then we're like, why would we ever do that? And then we're like, how do we get here? Why are we doing this? Shut it down. And then we're like, but what if we did? And it's just like these circles of like the darkest, dude. Look at me blocking.
So
it's so dark.
When it's so dark, it's like, okay, look to Yuri for the light. I'm like, okay, you're the outside perspective. I get on the phone with him. And first thing is like, he's always, pretty much everyone tells us, they're like, why did you get out of this agency that was super profitable, just crushing it? To just it was a hog.
They don't understand.
It was a cash hog, dude. He's like, why do you do that in the first place? We're like, no, we set up this better structure. It's just like hire our editors directly. He's like, okay, why are you doing the marketplace? Like, you're one, you don't even know if people want that. It's like, that's kind of risky, like to roll all your dice on that when you're like, okay, whatever, assume you do that. Like, I don't get the point. Like, you're making $500 a pop. Like, those aren't the people that got you here. Why are you here? Like, I always looked up to you. Like he said, I looked up to you for like the systems and how you stand out. Like, you just instantly took over Twitter. Like, that's what you're known for. I'm like, you're right, but I don't know. They're valuable. We know like the editors that got us here are valuable, and they're like not that much more expensive than a normal editor. But why can't we find a way to make it work? And he's like, you're just looking at it the wrong way. Like, one, fuck the marketplace. Like, I wouldn't even do that right now. Like, just focus on the shit that got you to where you are and just make that profitable, because it is like a great business if you run it right. So it's like, think of it like high-end brands, and specifically Balenciaga. He's like, I think of you guys like Balenciaga. where you have these clips that go viral. They're like stunning. Like people want to talk about them because they're like, what the fuck? We've never seen that before. The runway show where you're like, oh my God, what is that outfit? I would never wear that in public, but it's amazing. And I want to buy Balenciaga, and they're just standard t-shirt with just Balenciaga because their brand is just so awe-inspiring. That's what you are. The super editors you have, they aren't meant to be like, everyone gets this. This is just like your marketing. That's your runway of, oh, this is your Twitter, get people in the door, and then you tell them, hey, we're not going to do like a full minute of this wow. It's just like, let's just take a piece of that and then coast for the rest of the video.
T-shirt.
That's the best thing. It's the t-shirt that makes it more accessible. It's like, just focus on that. That's what's valuable to people, and that's what keeps you growing. Because we haven't grown because we're not marketing anything. Like we lost sight of like our marketing in general. We don't do Naval stuff. We don't do David Sachs, and it's like, that's why we're the talk of the town, and now we're not, and now that's why we're struggling because we haven't done that. Which is like, okay, one, open my eyes. I'm like, Balenciaga, you're right. We are premium clips. Like, we're not competing with Johnny Yan on TikTok. That's just not our game. Like, one thing that we read, the Rolex article. It's like this guy Shane Mack. He wrote this awesome article that's like, Rolex, they define themselves more by what they don't do than by what they do. So they don't do all the bullshit of like trying to market their product and like, I don't know, going through all the retailers and like giving them scripts and like everything. They're like, hey, retailers, we're just going to make the best product on earth, the best watch, sell it however you want to.
Right.
We just
Didn't they
focus
say
on
like
product.
we don't sell watches, we make watches or something?
Right.
It's just like we make the highest quality thing we can, and we let it sort
Laser
itself out.
focus on that. It's like, oh, that's our thing. We make the best quality clips. Granted, they're going to be fucking runway quality when you see them, but then when you buy it, it's like you don't need the runway quality. You just want the t-shirt. So that's when I'm like, Belky, fuck two shitty businesses. One, cut out the marketplace because that's not going to get us out of this problem. Like, let's just focus on our original business that got us here. Make that the most robust, like no cracks in that. Just 50 people. We're not scaling anymore. 50 people can make us $50,000 a month in profit if we do it right. Let's just figure that the fuck out. Get that running the way we want it to. Then maybe we hire an operator. Maybe we don't need one. Maybe we just go from figure out clipped, what we call like clipped black if we're going off of Uber, like clip black, figure that out. Now that makes us enough money. We're like, okay, we're both making, say, I don't know, $250,000 a year. That's like enough where we can live the life we want to, run a great business, and now focus on brand. So that's like, let's build a brand. So now we are like Balenciaga of people know just like Smart Nonsense and Clipped, and it's like they come to us for the edits that they see. Focus on brand, and then we circle back to like, oh, maybe we sell a course that's just like easy to distribute or a book or something like that. And then we focus on this like lower margin Fiverr or like Uber for video. That's more so like a startup where you get funding. Like we just got too ambitious. And we tried to do this fundraise model for a bootstrap company that's losing money. It's like, you can't do that.
That's true.
I know Fuck It Fridays are awesome, but you can't do that.
That's right. Bootstrap companies don't scale like that.
Hey,
well, Pop.
20 minutes? 40?
40 minutes. That's going to be a lot of B-roll you got to go through.
Hey, here's the thing, though.
Oh, and then, well, on the way over here, I just see clipped cash, clipped cash, clipped cash. I'm like, huh, that's confusing. So I guess that'll be a cliffhanger. We sold some super editors on Sunday and into today.
Well,
we're upselling a couple.
I believe in them again.
Yeah.
I believe in them when it's like, okay, take a morning brew. That's where it's valuable. Like, no one can do what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And now we just like, we know this team is 50. We're never going to grow beyond that because we don't need to. Like, once we just like make that a profitable business, now we focus on brand. We're not going to go to like 100-person clipped X. It's just 50. Let's figure that out. And when we do that, we're like, okay, we're playing long-term games with long-term people. Like, let's teach all these 50 people how to create the best story because we haven't done enough of the training side.
Too busy.
It's just kind of been like, what's that? Not mitosis. What's the fucking it? The water comes through.
Osmosis.
Just like osmosis. You're around clips, so like we think they're good, but like let's build actual courses for the team and make them the best, so that we have no doubt in selling them. So that's what we want to do now. Apparently,
Time to sell.
It's starting to sell
within the week.
But we got to make $70,000 in 7 days.
2. I sold 2 yesterday. About to sell 2 more We got a lot of work to do, Pop. Gardaloo.
Gardaloo. Oh, my body.
My body. Yeah, dude. A ripper. Thanks for being here.